See, not just a devastating loss. I mean, they didn't. Their first half was poo-poo. They played like butt. They played really well in the second half. But man, what a tough way to lose a game.
Yeah, I was trying to decide. I was watching somebody play. Oh, I'll tell you what. I was watching Iowa play yesterday afternoon. A strange game that was. And I was watching them get spanked in the first half, thinking to myself, what would be better, to lose at the buzzer or to get absolutely hammered, drilled, and not have a chance? And like Villanova, for instance, against Purdue. Now, unbelievably, Iowa came back, much like the Terps did, and made that a really, really interesting game. But that's a hell of a way to lose, man. I mean, you go down there, you're right. Lurch, I tell you what, man, I thought the Terps played okay in the first half. They didn't make any shots. They had all sorts of open shots, didn't make any of them.
Yeah.
And, LSU was pretty good in that first half. But anyway you look at it, when you get down 15, you got some major work to do to get yourself back in the game.
Chris, when Turge slapped the zone on them in the second half, I mean, LSU looked moment. They looked befuddled, like they could not figure it out. Did you feel like Turge should have done that earlier, like in the first half, or were you okay with when he went with the zone defense? Because LSU really struggled with it.
Well, I mean, it's funny. Terps have played like in the only other game where there was an extended period of zone was against Minnesota at Minnesota, and they looked the same way. They looked like they'd never seen a zone, practice against a zone, and so it worked. You kind of are who you are at this point in time of the season, and Maryland has been a man-to-man team about 98% of the time. In retrospect, sure, you look at it and you think, gosh, if we'd gone to that with 15 minutes left in the first half instead of 15 minutes left in the second half, maybe it would have been a different game. But like I said, you kind of are who you are by the time March rolls around, and it served the purpose. It certainly got them back into the game, and I for the life of me, I can't understand how teams look that disorganized and against the zone. I mean, basically they were playing pass and catch around that 3-2 zone. Made it pretty easy to cover.
They had no idea. And by the way, Waters is special. If Waters isn't going to be the best point guard in the country next year, he'll be top 5. He is a special talent. He's fun to watch. His passing in the lane, his ball handling, no-look passes. I mean, he's really, really – that's a tough kid to defend.
Yeah, he also has that, and they list him at, I think they list him at 5'10". There is no chance.
He's small.
Cakes could post him up. I mean, but he finishes in around the basket like you can't believe a guy that small can finish. He's a pretty remarkable player, no question about it.
Talking to Chris Naki, voice of the Terps on the Terps Radio Network. One of the things we were kind of kicking around off air, actually, is our impression of the Terps offense when Bruno gets double-teamed. Why isn't it better? I mean, he gets double-teamed all the time. It just doesn't seem like guys are cutting the basket hard enough, or they just don't seem to react well when he's doubled. And it happens all the time.
And he also looks a little bit lost. I mean, at times this year, Chris, he looked pretty good, and I think he got better than last year, but he still looks kind of lost when he gets doubled. He doesn't really know what to do.
Yeah, I'm going to put most of that on Bruno, to be honest. I do think he's come miles. I just think that, when you run 2 and 3 guys at him, I thought LSU did a really good job. And a lot of times it was Waters. A lot of times the double teams against LSU were coming from places you normally don't get double teamed from. They'd sneak a guy around on the baseline side, from the opposite block. And, Waters was effectively playing sort of a rover position at times when they were sending guys at Bruno. So I do think that they solved a lot of their problems. So they were so much better at the end of the season than they were in December at dealing with that stuff. But it's for Bruno, it's kind of an unusual look to get double and triple teamed. I wish he'd gotten more comfortable with it, but I do think that he understood what to look for. Sometimes I think there were panics. Sometimes there were plays made by the defense. And, it puts a kid in a strange situation when you're running 2 and 3 guys at him every game.
So Jalen Smith hit the game-tying 3, and I'm just kind of thinking this.
By the way, I thought Chris Nockey was going to send me a text.
Yeah, he hit a three.
If they win that game, I guarantee Nockey sends me a text. Yeah, you can't shoot threes,
Well,
can he?
I thought of you. The second it went through, I thought of Jason. I was like, that's the guy he said should never, ever take a three-pointer.
Although he clanked his first 4.
That's true.
But that was
He had
a
clutch
big one.
one.
Hey, so he's right on percentage,
Right,
right?
exactly.
No, but what I wanted to ask you was about kind of, is he somebody who might entertain the NBA after a freshman year? Because he has the physical ability.
You can't.
And these guys all do it nowadays. They entertain.
I've stopped trying to figure out who should go and who shouldn't go. Right. But the way the combine is set up right now, there's no downside to a player going and seeing what they think of him. He is not. I don't think he's ready emotionally, psychologically. I just think that he's got a lot of maturing to do, but kind of between the ears as much as anything else. He is really physically gifted. He can run like a deer. I will tell you that he's a much better three-point shooter than Jason thinks he is. And if you had been courtside, he would have pointed at you.
I know.
Hey, it's not always about the percentages. If it was about the percentages, you would have hit your free throws against Archbishop Malloy.
Yeah, I did. I clanked the front end of a 1-on-1.
Still throwing the Malloy free throws back in your face.
You got to use what you got.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But he's got those measurables that the NBA loves. I mean, he's long. He can run like a deer. He does have range, and I think I'm almost sure he'd go to the combine. I don't know why he wouldn't.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the reason why I bring it up is a year ago, I would have thought that Herter was going to play another year. And he ended up getting a first-round draft pick, and he's played well in the NBA.
Well, he went there as an afterthought, and then a few hours into the combine, he's hearing from people that, hey, man, sit this next game out. You already played your way into the top 20.
Mm-hmm.
So things happen, man, and you just because a guy had a certain year that as a college player, that doesn't mean that he's not going to make these guys drool when they get to the combine. It's just it's almost a different game, and they're looking for different things than I think that we're used to looking at in our college players.
We're going to get into the Sweet 16 matchups here in a second, and I don't know how much you want to reveal. I know these are private conversations, but can you give us just kind of a vibe or a feel of what the locker room was like and what your conversations with Turge was like after that game?
No, it's no fun. I mean, and it's kind of weird. And I think I said this to you in a text over the weekend. You go from the delirium after beating Belmont in what was just a phenomenal game. You go from the locker room after that game to the locker room, after LSU, and it's as night and day as you could possibly imagine. And Turge was a good soldier. He went out and answered every question, talked to everybody who posed the question at the press conference. He loves this team. He's said it all year long, and I think it just broke his heart that they would not only lose that way, and it's just a tough way to go out.